Francesca, what about the conditions?
I know. We've had lightning, we've had thunder, we've had sudden downpours. There's real drama in the skies today, and I think there's going to be drama and excitement on the track too. 9 stupendous races, 4 Group 1s. Are we going to see the star colt EXOSPHERE blow them away in the Coolmore Stud Stakes? I hope so. But more than that, Derby Day is a great pointer to the Melbourne Cup itself. By 5:30 this afternoon, we're going to know the final field for the big one, and then the all-important barrier draw. But before that, 10 of the 13 runners in the Lexus are all vying for that important last spot in the field. But back to the weather. I kind of hope it does keep raining because, Simon, we've got a share in a horse called Shop who's running in the Mckinnon Stakes, and he loves the wet. No, full reference, yes. And then the offer finishing close there, and he went on to win the Bendigo Cup.
Yep.
So
that's been franked. That form's been franked. And that was some day. I mean, he was a kid. Trained 6 winners on Derby Day.
25 years ago. It's amazing to think, isn't it? But we
didn't have to wear a hat then.
We saw last year a lot of swoopers winning on Derby Day, didn't we? So maybe today his horses with their wide barriers will go back, and you know, with the softer ground, it might tire the horses up front a bit more, so give him a bit more of a chance.
I reckon the rain's going to be pleasing him in one way, Criterion.
Yeah, exactly. I read today that Ryan Moore is going to be riding Sacred Eye next week in the Oaks, so he's coming over, he's riding in the Cup and then staying for the Oaks.
That would be the connection with Coolmore, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. They own her. Yep.
Poor Michael.
Huge news. It would be great if he could have a win here with his old mate Clary Connors. And this filly was impressive at Caulfield.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great? Because he said he was, one of the reasons for retiring was that he wasn't getting on the good horses. So for him to get on a nice, classy filly like this and then hopefully have her in the Oaks would be great. Look, she's a fascinating one. She, from 6 starts, she was still a maiden, had never won a race until she came storming home in the Ethereal. She was super impressive. And I fancy her again today. Look, physically, she's not the biggest, she's not the strongest, she's quite light of bone, more European style type of filly, but I think she's definitely my tip for this one. Yes, exactly. I thought that race against My Popette, she just sat on her girth there, and then My Popette kicked off away from her, and she didn't quite have the equivalent turn of foot to keep going with her. But I think the more galloping track of Flemington will really suit her. She's actually a lovely looking filly. She's very American in pedigree. Yeah, it's quite interesting. We've seen a few fillies not perform as well as they should have of recently because they've been in season. And I don't know whether this is something that punters should be warned of before the race or not. I think that's an interesting talking point. It affects some fillies more than others. It obviously did affect her that day, but nothing really went right. She got far too far back. But a lot of people were initially quite keen on her from her initial runs. I think we probably want to see her race again to have a lot of confidence in her. Physically, she's quite a long mare, a little bit immature to look at. Then we've got Sacred Eye and Jamaica, who we didn't even see today. Who
I guess Pasadena Girl
Pasadena
too.
Girl, yeah, who you probably have. Would you rate them
4th
above
favourite.
them? Above
well, at the
this
moment,
one?
Glenn Munns is telling us $3 Sacred Eye, $4 Ambience and $4 Jamaica. So that's the market for the moment at the Crown Oaks.
You know quite a lot about him because my dad used to train him.
Well, tell us, should we be...
Yeah, well, you look at his form and you think, oh, well, there's no black type form in there, so it's not impressive. But he's run in very big competitive handicaps with big fields, and he's done well, actually.
Why doesn't Dad train him now?
Because he sold him at the Horses and Training sale last year. Because in England, we think it's important to get value for your owners, because prize money is so bad in England that if you can sell them for a good amount, then it makes sense.
I think
it'll help.
Yeah, but he actually hasn't got any soft ground form, but our English good is probably more like your soft.
Okay.
Well, it's originally the Chatham Stakes, that's a registered name. Messene, I like the run in the Epsom. We've seen what Winks has done, Francesca.
Well, exactly. Any form around Winks looks pretty good at the moment, doesn't it? Having said that, not a huge amount of horses that finished in the placings in the Epsom have gone on to win just yet. Look, he was a little bit unlucky that day, came from quite a long way back, had to weave his way through the field. My only question with him is that he is a 7-year-old now, and whether he's still got that real burning desire to win, I'm not quite sure, especially when there are a couple of quite exciting younger horses in the field.
Sparkling record as a 2-year-old in England.
Yes, exactly, Bruce. You've summed him up quite well there. I think we can see that he hasn't raced for 92 days because he is quite on his toes. He's quite fresh here. The ambience here at Flemington on a big day like this, probably just getting to a little bit. He's got a little bit of that winter coat. He's having his first start in Australia. It's probably personally like having a horse win a good race at 3, because at 2, you know, not all that generation have really, you know, come out of the woodwork. So to win it at 3 and to defeat hopefully hopefully what's the best around is more key to me.
You know, well, he's probably is he the most important horse here today? How could I say that, Francesca? But there's something about him, isn't there? EXOSPHERE.
Lots of important horses running here today, but I'm almost a little bit starstruck walking around next to him because look at the way he's won his last 3 starts. He's just so dominant. The way he comes round the bend, gets himself out of trouble and just storms down the straight. Look, it's his first time running down the straight here at Flemington, but I don't think there are any issues there. I think the only slight query is that from his inside barrier, he could get caught up in a little bit of traffic, and that's the only thing I can really see that'll get him beaten. He's an absolutely beautiful specimen, all 600 kilos of him.
Do you think he's going to be okay? It's the first time today he'll run in a race where he hasn't been favourite.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, he's come here with those 4 really dominant wins from Singapore, but then the bubble burst slightly last time out when he got beaten by General Jackson, who's the good horse, but no star. So Michael Friedman, I think, has had to put a little bit of extra work into him. He's really pleased with how he's going. But my worry is that Singapore form doesn't really match up to the best horses here. Having said that, he does look great.
Sydney, how does he look?
Yeah, I'm really curious about this horse because in Sydney he's been tending to slightly miss the break. He gets back a long way in his races. He comes wide round the bend and he absolutely storms down the straight. He seems to have a lot of natural speed. So, Brendan, down the straight, how might we see him perform without the implication of the bend?
Look, I'll just be riding him quiet where he's comfortable. They should run along. Super 1 went quick in his trial the other day, so interesting thing is, look, before we got here today, we thought probably the fence wasn't going to be the place to be, and the middle track was where they were going to go, but now the inside seems to be the place to be, and look, whether everything goes to the fence early, I'll be following him across, but he should be storming late.
Any chance of beating EXOSPHERE?
There's always a chance. Don't know with these straight races, but I'm sure my bloke will handle it. He'll run well.
Good luck.
You reckon?
I don't know, Bruce. I think the stable do seem to have quite a lot of confidence in Mogador, but to me, EXOSPHERE is definitely the pick by quite a long way. Look, it's quite good form. The second to Keeneray in the blue sapphire was good, but best person to ask is Craig. Tell me a bit more about him.
I like Mogador. He's got a great temperament. He's got a really good motor, and he was beaten the other day by the tempo of the race because it was a turn. But today down the straight, I think he's going to really enjoy going down the straight. But it's a cracking race, but he's definitely one of the main players.
Yes, quite an unusual path for a horse of Saïd bin Sarouz to have to run today to get into the Cup. The quick 3-day backup isn't something they'd normally choose to do, but they have to with this horse. Like I said before, his handicap form is very strong. Maybe it's not black type, but it's good. And by all reports, these guys have been pleased with him at Werribee, so he's got to be considered.
Father also trained this fella, HAVANA Cooler?
He did indeed, and he sold him last year, and he's been with the O'Shea stable for a while. But what I like about him is that his form has really just gradually progressed with each run, and his third in the Metropolitan last start was very good. He was on the worst ground that day. He came up the rail, but what I like is that he really hit the line strongly that day. So
his grandfather last year, of course, but I mean singularly. And Gay's got 2 chances here, hasn't she, Francesca? And this is the second one with Jimmy Cassidy.
She does indeed. This is a lovely, consistent mare, and she's come third in her last couple of starts. She tends to sit on the speed, but just recently she's been finding a couple a bit better than her. So will that happen again today? Possibly a little bit of a drop in class. So we've seen winners coming from the rail and coming from the front, so maybe keep her in mind, but idealising horses' looks in the mounting yard. Well, I hate to pick him out as an example, but this is kind of what you don't really want them to look like. A long, hairy coat. He's quite light. He's quite a bit thin through the back. He just really doesn't look great. And I have to say, when I saw him in quarantine in Newmarket, he didn't look ideal either. And his form this year, also not great. Kieran Mars had him in his stable for a week after he came out of quarantine. He's put a host of gear changes, tongue-tied, cross-nose band, but I think, no, can't happen.
How good's this? How many Group 1 winners have you owned?
None.
Until now?
Until now. Oh, my God, I don't expect me to speak. Can you talk?
And what about you, Simon? A Group 1 winner on Derby Day.
Oh, that was just fantastic.
Oh, here's a replay.
No, I didn't let myself get excited to the... Oh, no, this is mean. This is really mean.
Call it, Simon.
Wait, hang on, why not Simon?
Talk about Gay.
Gay Waterhouse.
Yeah,
Pretty good grandstand jockey, but you just...
This is so mean. This is so mean.
Oh, it's great, isn't it?
I didn't care. We just won the Mckinnon. Oh, my God.
How important is this?
This is just, I mean, what a thrill, Simon. I mean,
fantastic.
especially after the disappointment of the Cox Plate, we came there with a lot of hope, and then to see him back up within a week, which is pretty unusual for our kind of horse.
He's a really good...
It's a very strong horse. He go all the time. He's a very good horse.
It was a brilliant performance, Antoine. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.
Oh, well done. Oh, what a win. Good ride. Hello, big boy. He just kept pulling it out, didn't he? Because the filly got past you. Such a good boy. Yeah.
So, what an incredible moment for someone we're so close to. First horse that she's owned, and you know, obviously a first Group 1 winner, and for Simon as well. I mean, these colours have been so close in some big races, and there's Simon there with the connections, and this Galo shop. He's got a big heart, hasn't he? And for Francesca to be able to lead the horse back in on this, the most prestigious of all days of Australian racing. Her father's been here with great stayers, have come so close in Melbourne Cups, and this Mckinnon Stakes is going to be long remembered for lots of reasons, isn't it? Absolutely. Well, we do feel connected in here, don't we? With this win by Galo Shop, a French horse that Francesca Cumani and Simon O'Donnell are in the ownership of. He ran in the Cox Plate last week, and Les Cheska, I mean, this is just great stuff. And riding like Gay Waterhouse had ridden in the race before, and you can see what it means to an owner. I mean, just the thrill of it all. I mean, Cheska's been around great horses all her life, but she's never had a situation like this. And for Simon O'Donnell, well, you know, he puts a lot of money into racing as well. You don't get Group 1 winners on Derby Day every day of the week, do you?
Well, it just gives you a tingle in the spine, doesn't it, to be part of it like that. But
Francesca, I think it's fair to say this is almost the class horse of the race, don't you? For the races he's come through, Lizard Island?
Well, I'd say so too, and I think in the betting he's been slightly forgotten at $7.10. Look, to me, he's got all the best form lines. Second in the Caulfield Guineas to Press Statement's very good. Second to Sacred Eye. And don't forget, because he's a colt, he had to give her 2 kilos that day, and that weight does make a difference. Look, I think he's a lovely horse. We heard from Pat Hyland. I think it would just be a great story. He sure is, because he's coming here with very different form lines. He's come all the way from Perth. Look, he's undefeated, but 10 weeks ago, he'd never even set foot on a race course to race. So that's quite an impressive achievement in his first preparation. Look, whether he's good enough to match up to these horses, that's what remains to be seen. On breeding, he's bred for this. He's got a young jockey who's having his first ride over here, and there's a few unknowns. My new favourite jockey, and I would like to talk to him if I can reach him, because he's quite big, Extra Choice. Look, he was impressive in the Geelong Classic, but is that good enough form here?
Oh, I think so. I was really impressed with the way he did it. He was probably going quicker after the line than what he was up the straight. So his work through the week's been sensational, and the barrier's the only issue, and the way the track's racing. But we'll settle back, and we'll need a few breaks. But if we get him, I've got no doubt he'll be in the finish.
Well, you're in flying form. Good luck.
What a mare she is, and what do you think?
What a mare she is indeed. From 30 starts, she's won 5 of them, second 10 times, third 5 times. So she's very good at coming second, but she's also a very consistent mare. Just forget her last run in the Caulfield Cup. I think the distance was wrong, she was wide, everything was wrong. She finished last there. So I think she can bounce back. A lot of other people do too, considering she's favourite. She does look well in the yard.
Abide with me now. She comes off open big races like the Rupert Clark and the Toorak.
Yes, exactly. And in those races, she's been really unlucky. She's had wide barriers, and just nothing's really gone right for the poor thing. But and today, the opposite, barrier 1. So that's going to be a bit of a change in tactics. And Peter Moody says this has been her target all the way along. And don't forget, she's pretty classy. She has won a Group 2 back in New Zealand. She's not the biggest of mares, but she's pretty classy looking. I don't know, if he has to ride the horse exactly the same way, he's pretty much got to be out the back and hope for a run through horses and steam home, which, yes, the horse has run in a similar way in Japan, but it doesn't give him many options.
That's the ideal...
There's, for whatever reason, say there's not much pace up front. If he has to sit at the back off a slow pace, he's got no chance.
Let's go to Ted.
Well, a lot of things have happened to me in life, but it's the first time I've been Galo chopped by these two.
Or sandwiched.
Yeah, well done today, by the way. I mean, for
Congratulations.
Francesca and Simon to win
done.
Group
So
1 on
exciting.
Derby Day. Unbelievable.
It was so exciting.
How does it compare with your big moments in racing?
I think it's got to be right up there with the very best. I mean, he's actually the first horse I've ever owned a share in. So for him to be here and to win the Mckinnon on Derby Day, it's just huge.
Well done.